I'm Vida Brown, Olenek now, and I was born in River Forest, or Oak Park, Illinois, and I lived in River Forest until I was 16, and then I went abroad and joined a small company there called Ballet de la Jeunesse. I was born in 1922, and I have two elder sisters. Cicely is the oldest, and she's 10 years older than I am. And Dorothy, my middle sister, was 7 years older than I was. And then I was an afterthought. And as a matter of fact, I understand that my name is Vida, and they desperately wanted a boy. And when I was a girl, my mother said, "Oh, just name her the feminine of David." So that really was Davida. Davida, so they took off the D-E, and it's Vida. Well, they came, I think, and they brought in Miss Neal, who was the lecturer. She was lecturing on Morris dancing. And she brought my mother along, who was then 18, I think, to demonstrate. And they performed at Carnegie Hall. My goodness, I never was in Carnegie Hall. And, she performed there. And they performed all over this country. And at one point, I think it probably was fairly in the beginning when they started, that they went to Yale University. And after the performance, after the lecture, they served tea and cookies. And my mother, of course, went, and she met my father there. And I thought that was just great. They sat and talked quite a bit, and apparently he asked for her address or to write to her because she had letters from him after the tour. Well, I know more about how he took her off the boat because he was out playing golf with another woman, with another girl. And he kept looking at his watch all the time. And finally he said, he decided. He was thinking, how am I going to get to her? And he said to the girl, "Would you mind taking my clubs back to the thing? I'm going to leave. I have to catch a train to New York." And so this woman was astounded, and she said, "Of course, go ahead." So he did. He took the train to New York, went to the boat. They were on the boat. They were on the ship. And he asked her to marry him. I think that's where he asked her to marry. Maybe he spoke about it in letters. That I don't know. But he took her off the boat. It's very exciting and very romantic. So, and then she stayed here. He stayed here. They got married. They got married in New Jersey with a friend of Miss Neal's. When I was in the company, I went all over the world doing Balanchine ballets. And I would talk to the conductors. And here I was at La Scala in Milan, and the conductor came back with a big score, and he said, "Would you mind if at this point we had a crescendo?" So I said, "Well, if you could hum it for me, because I don't read music. If you could hum it for me, I could tell you what, So he hummed it for me, and I said, "Great, make the crescendo." But it was so embarrassing to ask someone to hum it rather than be able to say yes.
So you started dancing when you were 7,
mm-hmm.
and then what?
And then I just continued and continued. And I got, my mother said I had to work very hard because my body was not quite really for a dancer. I had a very long torso, and the legs weren't short, but they weren't long either. And I found in dancing in companies and in auditioning that they wanted people with long legs, small head, long neck, and long arms. That wasn't me. But I worked very hard. My parents sent me to Europe when I was 16 with Helen's mother, because Helen was already studying. And I went to study with two Russian dancers, Preobrazhenska and Igorova. And they were different styles. But I had 2 classes a day.
Where was this?
This was in Paris. And 2 classes a day, and I studied every day. I worked hard. Then they went on tour, and I went back to school, to Chicago. And I was in school for a month.
So this was sort of
1939.
1939.
1939, and Christmas was at home. And then in February, I got a call from Ballet Russe, who was in San Francisco, asking if I could come and join the company for 2 weeks because people were sick and they needed help. Oh, I said, I'll be there with bells on. And my father said no, absolutely not. My mother said, let her go. It's for 2 weeks. So, fine, I went, and they said to me from Chicago, from California, they said, you must take a bus. And when my father heard that, he said, absolutely not. You're going to take a train. I said, no, Papa. They said a bus, so I want to do what they... Well, I did. I took a bus. 3 days getting to California. Got there. They told me where I was to go. Went there, put on my practice clothes. I learned 3 ballets that day and learned them that night, did them dance that night, because it wasn't the 3 that I'd learned previously. And they were so amazed that I could learn these ballets quickly. That's where I found I had a real forte, because everybody came to me, the girls came, could you learn my part in this? Could you learn my part in that? I said, I'll learn it, you know. And the regisseur said, he's standing on the wing, he says, who's that out there? And they said, that's the new girl. And she just learned my part. She's doing my part. So I had no rehearsal, you know, I just stood there and watched the ballets and then went in. When I think of it, it's crazy. But it was I loved it. When I was dreaming, though, I dreamed of ballets. I was dancing all night. Well, I was doing everything, but we performed we went to